Hey all, Rob here. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know when future videos are out. And in this video, I'd like to talk about whenever there has been like an upswing in the comic book industry, ever since the Golden Age. The Golden Age was different, but ever since the Silver Age, really, it's always been artists at the forefront who, their styles, their innovation, that took the lead and changed the game, right? Improved things. Like in the 1960s, you had Steve Ditko, you had Jack Kirby, you had John Romita, you had John Buscema and Gene Colan, and you had others, right? In the 1980s, let's say late 1970s, the 80s, you had John Byrne, Frank Miller, Walter Simonson, and others. And then by the 90s, you had Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, Todd McFarlane, Willis Portacio, Mark Silvestri, who'd already been around in the 80s but got higher up there. So there's always been that, you know what I mean? But you look at the past, I don't know, decade plus and all, there's not been those special artists, and you need more than one to really drive the industry. I think one of the reasons or faults is now in the past, I don't know, ever since the Image days, maybe especially the past 10 to 20 years, it's been a focus on writers trying to change the game, right? Writers, and not on artists or a collaboration. I think, again, I don't know, but I think outside of, let's say, the writer and artist getting along, like a real good team and friends outside of work, for the most part, artists today just follow the script of the writer. In other words, they're not really contributing to the plot or shaping the story. They're just following what the writer said. Panel by panel, page by page, right? Instead of bringing their own stuff to the table, right? And I think that's one of the problems today. It's like for innovation, you need the artist to be equal or at least close to it or in charge to innovate. If they see a 3-panel page and say it should be 5, maybe consult, work together, get a 5-panel page. Or if they see a 6-panel page and it might work better as 3. You know what I mean? It's like the artist has the vision because he's an artist and the writer is not an artist. So it's like, whose vision do you believe? You know what I mean? That's just my view on it there. I think one of the big faults of the industry is when they let the writer take charge too much. And it's like comic books are a visual medium first and then a text medium a distant second in a way. So who's more important in the equation? I think it's rather obvious. And the problem is, switching side topics, because I was also going to go into this. When it comes to the activism, I was reading an article, right? And I think it was on Bounding into Comics about another writer on like Twitter, and he moved to Blue Sky, who doesn't like the fans, who disrespects the fans, who just doesn't like you, the fan, the comic reader. And there's so many writers, both established and new ones in recent years, who disrespect the fans, disrespect the audience. Or even some of them said, don't buy my book. And then they complain a year later when the book is canceled. Well, you said don't buy your book well, there you go. These people don't get it. They really don't. You're not winning fans over by being on Twitter and then talking back at them if you're a writer or a pro. You can only lose fans. It's better to stay neutral or just not even be involved in Twitter, to be honest. And there's so many of these writers, and they're the ones who are screwing up the comic books. It's not the artist. As I said before in a video, even if the artist is an activist, he has to follow what the writer and the editor says. So he can't put his own politics into the book because he has no say in the shaping of the panels. And if the editor sees something wrong, he'll say, get rid of that sign, get rid of this. In other words, the writer and the artist could be whatever he wants outside of work, outside of art, but he's just following what the writer says and the editor. So his personal agenda, doesn't affect the quality of the book. But what does affect the quality of the book is the writing and the editing, because the writers and the editors messing up the characters in the books. And they're the ones who have shaped and destroyed the characters. And it's such a shame, you know? It's like, it would be better if, even though Marvel Comics is a complete mess, it would be better if the comics did a full reboot, because then people would just say, you know, then it's totally done. You know, that's it. These Ultimate Worlds are not reboots because it's not the main timeline. I don't think Marvel lacks the guts to change the main timeline ever. It's still following the 1960s. Even though there's been a lot of revisions, it's never been totally discarded. So I think what they could do is, well, if they did do a full reboot and it didn't work, they would just roll it back. So you can't even be sure that they wouldn't roll it back and bring back the original universe. It's too bad they just can't, like, eliminate the past 10 plus years of stories across the whole entire Marvel universe. Go back to a certain year where all the stories were and say everything else after didn't happen, and then take the story forward like that. It's not going to happen, but it would, so many things easier. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Stay safe, my friends. Subscribe if you haven't, and I'll talk to you later.